Welcome to the Woodpreneur podcast, the number one podcast for the business and marketing side of the lumber, woodworking, hardwood flooring, and sawmill industry. I'm your host, Steve from Acres of Timber. Each week, we feature various wood business owners and entrepreneurs from around the globe. We share their stories, paths, insights so that you can network, learn, and grow your own wood business. Thank you so much for listening. Now enjoy the episode. The Woodpreneur podcast is proudly sponsored by Acres CRM. Acres CRM is the wood industry's only customer relationship management software dedicated to helping you automate your sales and marketing so that you can focus on serving your customers and growing your business. You can visit acresoftimber.com to learn more and to schedule a demo. Once again, that's acresoftimber.com. Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur podcast. This is your host, Steve. Today's guest is Katrina from Timberdoodle Farm. How are you doing, Katrina?
I'm doing well today. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for making the time to talk. Can you tell us about Timberdoodle Farm? What are you guys doing? How long have you guys been around? Tell us the origin story.
Sure. We have kind of a nonsensical origin story, which was Miles built a sawmill, and then it snowballed aggressively, and that's what we're doing now. So we are currently a vertically integrated sawmill business in kind of rural New Hampshire. So we have the capacity to cut down trees all the way through milling and post-processing, which means that we do like a very kind of like geographically circular product. And we've been doing this for, I think, 10 years.
Wow. You're like OG. You
I guess.
Well, I mean, there's 10 years is a long time in the sawmill business. So why don't you tell us, I guess what the moment where it became an actual business?
Sure. I think it was probably when we were still sawmilling actually out of the duplex apartment that we were renting near the college town that we went to. And I came home from my kind of like day job. I do conservation work. And Miles had been milling and I was coming home early to help him. And I was just like, oh, I can tell by the smell of the sawdust that you've been milling a lot of red oak today. And he was just like, yeah, we were doing boards. And I was like, okay, that's, I am deep in this enough to identify wood species by the smell of its sawdust. Like this feels like we've been doing a lot of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then probably the other kind of like real business point was when we bought our house and moved the whole operation up into a space that was a lot more suitable for it.
Yeah. And what was that like? Did you end up was he doing it full time? Were you doing it full time? Like, are you doing it full time now? Or like what's how did you sort of make it real?
Yeah, it's kind of, it keeps changing. So we originally intended for it to be a bit of a filler business. I was doing seasonal bird research and Miles was working at an engineering startup. And so this was kind of our way to financially fill in the gaps if we ever had breaks. But we both were doing the sawmill side of things, logging and sawmilling full time for about 2 years. And then I actually, a couple of years ago, went back to working a day job in conservation again. So it's fluctuated. We're busy enough that I could probably go back, but I also love my job. So it's a bit of a work tension there. So we've really intended to keep it flexible. We don't know what the world is going to do, and keeping it small enough and flexible enough means we can take advantage of kind of other personal opportunities.
Cool. And so tell us about your business model now. How does it work? So are you portable milling for people, selling lumber, furniture? What are you doing?
Yeah, we actually haven't portable milled in years at this point. We started out doing that, but it's definitely evolved over time. And right now we're really specializing in these, like, I guess like boutique logging. I don't really know what to call it. But when people are building a house or doing a renovation project, like a big one, on their property, we go in and we take down the trees and then we custom mill them to whatever specs the owner is looking for, and we dry it and we, send the lumber right back where the trees came from. So that's kind of our niche at the moment. We've got 5 or 6 big house or restoration projects going on right now.
Cool. And you're milling, drying, planing, getting it ready, all sorts of stuff.
Yep. We send out stuff like specialty flooring. There's a really great sawmill in Western Mass that is so much better at it than we are. So we send that out for a better final product, but the rest of it is all vertically integrated.
So cool. What are you finding is a challenge in that model?
It's definitely linked to construction. Right? Like we had a really big boom in new home builds in our area with COVID. A lot of people moving out of the cities into a more rural space. So we were taking advantage of that. And then the other challenge is the way we do logging is somewhat inefficient. So, it's kind of like the low impact model, but that's a lot slower than what the bigger companies do.
Are you sourcing from your own land, or are you working with tree companies?
Mostly the landowner's land. So the trees coming off their lot and going back into their house, but we also work with tree services and some kind of landowners in our very direct area who want a little bit of money for their standing timber and a little bit of like forest management, very small scale and custom.
Yeah, that's and how did you end up finding landowner? Is it just the area that you're in? There's just a lot of people with a lot of land, or people buying a lot of land? Like, did
Both.
you fall into like this niche of customer?
Yeah, we fell into it. It's partly the area. There's a lot of timber. New Hampshire's like 86% forested, and a lot of that is privately owned. So just the region we're in.
It's just there, right?
Yeah.
There's just a lot of land. And are you finding is the conversation easy? Is it an easy sell once they realize that they can use the or is it like a hassle for them to?
It depends. I think, we started working with some home construction companies. And so when they're talking to the landowner at the beginning of the construction phase, like right when they're doing the site work or that conversation, they're saying, oh, and what do you want to do with this timber that's coming off your lot? And they'll put us in touch. If the landowner's like, well, I've never thought of this, we could use it.
What kind of lumber are you milling?
Anything.
Well, I guess more specifically, is it boards? Is it dimensional? Is it slabs? Like, what are you flooring or everything? I guess maybe the more specific question is like, I guess what use with these home projects are you finding that is the easiest sell, right?
Yeah. And it's kind of like the interior like package, I guess. So trim, flooring, paneling, shiplap, with a little bit of custom beams sometimes and slabs if they're looking for woodworking projects also.
Yeah. That's cool. Are you drying as well?
Yep, we have two vacuum kilns.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Where do you see your business going?
Things feel like they're at a very like distinct kind of flux moment right now. And so we're trying to stay really adaptable. We've been doing a lot more green dimensional lumber sales recently. It's not as high of a profit margin, but it's still, we have the wood resource in the area and people looking for it. There's a big piece of equipment that's going to follow Miles home on Friday, I think. And that's kind of a hedge against all of these kind of invasive insect pests that we're seeing in the trees and just changing climate conditions. So hazard tree removal and then using that wood for lumber.
You're investing in stuff for like you're investing in equipment that'll help be a little bit more efficient with tree removal.
A little more efficient and a little more safe.
Like you said earlier, your removal process is a little slow but has low impact.
Yep. And so this would stay low impact but kind of give flexibility for kind of closer into infrastructure rather than kind of more the standard logging.
Yeah, sure. What excites you about your business?
I've really been loving the conversations we're having with the folks who are building the homes, honestly, because they're really excited about knowing where the products that are going into their home came from. They're passionate about the lumber being from a tree that they had a relationship with. That's pretty exciting. So I like that side of it. This connecting people to the trees that are making the wood that they're now using.
For sure. And then what's your take on the future state of the world, and how are you adapting your business to that?
Oh, the future state of the world. I don't know.
You know what I'm talking about, right? The recession.
Yeah. It's the crystal ball is fuzzy, honestly. So we are investing in equipment. It's definitely used, worn out equipment that's not going to lose much value. So yeah, trying to keep our expenses low for sure. We're trying to get a dry chip boiler in to power the kilns, which would reduce our kiln cost to basically nothing, because we'd be using the slab waste from the mill to power the drying process.
Smart. That's super smart. And it's eco-friendly, right?
Yeah. It's good on a lot of levels, financially and environmentally. So just trying to we stopped doing any sort of logging this summer because the turnaround time is so slow from the tree removal to the finished product process. And we thought, people might not be invested in like a 2-year turnaround time. Plus with fuel costs, it didn't feel smart.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a part of the interview where you can ask any marketing or business question. So is there something that you need help with, or any marketing challenge that you'd like an extra set of eyes or ears on?
Yeah, I feel like, right now we're definitely struggling with where is the economy going? We don't have big projects lined up for next year yet, which is kind of new for us. Mines are thinking about that question right now.
Sure.
And then we're also trying to just start shifting a little bit, not shifting because expanding, I don't really know what the right word is, but trying to start working with more of the architect and design side of the process, to start doing some maybe like chain of custody sourcing and helping that process. And it's still in the idea phase. So I don't know, sanity check.
Yeah. Well, I guess for one, I think you're, the one thing that I would be thinking about is like, you said you have 5 home projects, right, that you're working on, like, and, something that you said is like, for the people that came to you for those projects, like, who are they specifically, right? Because whoever they are, there's probably more people like them, right? And so what I would do is, this is now is the time where you need to start investing in building your brand and getting your name out there and being almost like on the offensive with putting your name out there, right? And it sounds like, I haven't met too many people like yourself, but the fact that you work with rural landowners to help them repurpose their project, their lumber in their home projects, that's a unique sort of value proposition that I would actually build out a marketing campaign strictly on that, and then create a marketing package just for your ideal target audience. Like you can build databases of your ideal target audience and create a marketing. Listen, the same way realtors can get your address to tell you about the home that's being for sale down the street, you can do the same thing, but for your services, right? So that's one.
Yeah.
Second thing is these architects, millworks. Again, it's just like a very similar thing where you can harvest the list, put together harvest the list, and put it on your to-do list to make 5 calls a day, 3 to 5 calls a day, to tell them what you're doing, and just say, hey, look, lock in your rates right now, your pricing for your projects right now, and then you can get agreements and contracts for next year. So is that helpful?
Yeah, no, that's I know we get letters from logging companies all the time because we have a fair bit of land.
Yeah.
There's no trees left on it. The previous owner cut it really hard. But I'd kind of never thought about investing in that for us.
Yeah. Well, it's the same. It's literally the same thing. It's like you go out and just, you could go to contractors and developers and tell them that's what you like. Hey, we're looking for we have room next year for 5 more partners. I'm inviting you to be a part of this. You know what I mean? It's all about how
so special.
And then they feel special. And then make sure that you get testimonials from your clients that you're working with now. Like, oh, Katrina and Timberdoodle Farm are great. They do this, and that, right? Like, get that. And then, then you just work it, right? It's this is stuff that I do with my clients, but like, you need to know who you're targeting, where they inhabit, and then you need to communicate in a style by selling your features, your benefits, and social proof, right? Like that's all you need to do. The medium is different, right? So whether it's video, whether it's a written letter, whether it is a text with the photo, it's all the same. Like you could send a letter with the QR code on it that takes them to timberdoodlesawmill.com/letter. And then there could be a video where you walk them through the same exact thing. and they can book a time to talk to you, right? So like that's see, I see your mind spinning there. Is that
it absolutely is. We definitely, when we did retail, we really struggled with our ideal audience or customer, just because could be anyone really.
It could be anyone,
whereas now
it seems like this boutique stuff seems like you kind of know who your audience is, right? I bet if you have 5 homes that you're building, there's probably a singular thread with every single one of these customers, right?
Yeah, it's only, I guess, right now where we started looking around and being like, oh, we have space and we have time, maybe sort of, to actually think about future marketing. I would hop on that now.
I would hop on that now. Like now, because it's, it's only if you could get into people's heads right now, and then you can remarket them later on. Most people don't know that it takes 7 touches to make a sale. Somebody will reach out to you, and someone will reach out to you, and because they thought of you at that moment. But then life gets in the way. Then they read the news. Then their kids gotta go. They gotta pick up their kid from camp, and then they got dinner, and then they forget. Unless it's like a very, very hot thing, people actually need to be sold to and marketed to, right? And so anyway, that's so is that helpful for you?
No, it's great.
Which one are you going to take action on?
I'm not sure. Unfortunately, my head is currently spinning in 2 different directions, because the communications and outreach for the nonprofit that I run has very similar needs on occasion. So my brain was spiraling. But
well, we could talk offline. Reach out.
That's true.
We could talk offline. Yeah, no pressure.
I feel like getting testimonials is actually probably the lowest hanging fruit, and the one that we're still terrible at. So
absolutely, you need to ask for those.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So how can people get in touch with you? Website, Instagram?
Yep. Timberdoodle Sawmill at gmail.com is our email. We're also at Timberdoodle Farm on Instagram. I guess we have a Facebook page, but I don't pay attention to it, which is a terrible marketing advice. Please pay attention to your social media channels.
And TimberdoodleSawmill.com.
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. And then
sometimes we have cell service. Okay. Depends on the day.
Oh, and congrats on the Fast Company article.
Oh, thank you. It was exciting. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to getting your story out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks so much for listening to the Woodpreneur podcast, the #1 podcast for the business and marketing side of the lumber, woodworking, hardwood flooring, and sawmill industry. If you like what you heard, please give us a 5-star rating and review. You can also tap into our community by visiting woodpreneurlife.com. Once again, that's woodpreneurlife.com.